Hello everyone. Okay, so I'm going to share with you some writing. I think writing is important. I want to encourage everyone to write if you like writing. When I was first encouraged to write, I was like, write, what? Oh my gosh, how could someone even ask me that? How could someone say that? If I ever wrote, what I feel and what I think, people would know how dumb I am and how I can't put ideas together. And I don't know why I felt that way, but the good news is as I wrote more and more, and my teachers all were encouraging me to write and said not to worry about what came out, just write what you think and write what you feel. And because I stopped worrying about trying to be perfect, right? Because I think in school, in the early years, I felt like I had to be perfect or had to be something that I wasn't, right? What I didn't understand was that school is to bring out something that's potentially present in us, right? It's to connect us with our specific interests, right? I mean, I think ideally that's what school can be. So let's look here at now. So this is after now having been in touch with the process of being able to express what I feel and what I think, and it's still a work in progress, meaning it's not perfect, and it doesn't ever have to be perfect, but it's sharing thoughts and feelings, right, in the form of a way of communicating with others, right? So here we are. Let's go ahead and read this. And this is one of the comments that people responded to. Sometimes people will give the comment a thumbs up, and this one I think I got it. It has 8 thumbs up, which is comparatively pretty good. Or no, am I wrong here? I am wrong. Look how many. This actually got 13 thumbs ups. So this one was particularly popular, and again, if no one likes the comment, I also had a teacher tell me that that's when you really know you have something, when no one likes it. And that's nothing wrong with that, right? Okay, as long as we're not causing harm to ourselves or anyone else, it's okay if no one likes what we're saying. But in this particular story, I'm so happy to share with you. I'm going to go ahead and share this with you again in the form of making a video of it. The only thing that I'm a little bit frustrated by is that it takes so long for my videos to upload. I'm loading videos right now that I filmed a week ago, and I'm going to have to find a solution for that. But meanwhile, it's just going to take time to load these videos. I don't know when this one will load. This one will probably be like 6 to 10 minutes, so it could take several days. And I might make another video of this and try to make it shorter, because in this video I'm talking a lot about the process and how things started and what it felt like to originally try to write, or when someone said go ahead and write. And I'm saying that because just in case someone out there feels like they have a lot to say, or they have really strong feelings inside and they want to express them in some way, writing can be one way to do that. There's many ways to do it. Painting, poetry, there's so many creative outlets, right? Even creating things. Electrical and mechanical engineering can also be very creative, right? Okay, let's go ahead and read this, and let's see if I can make a video out of this. It says, so this was written 2 months ago, and it says edited, okay? I usually misspell things, so I go back and spell correct things. Sometimes the spell corrector will just change a word, and it's not the one I want to use. So at this point in time, the words all should be the words that I meant to use at this point, because it has been edited. Okay, the future, with extremely efficient energy use and efficient machines beyond imagination, will not arrive to the gift that is the present if we do not work together as a worldwide community of solution-oriented collaborators. Isn't that beautiful? We can do that. And many of us already are. We're collaborating together. We're trying to work together as a world community, right? Because it's all about working together to build, right? To build together, to build connection, right? I understand this to mean together we build the future each and every day. Share your vision of how efficient energy use machines can work. Share your dreams of a pollution-free world community of support. Shall we build this beautiful dream together? Share your positivity, creativity, and collaborative abilities to unite ideas in electrogravitics. giving more efficient flight to a pollution-free civilization. What's electrogravitics? Do you know what that is? Electrogravitics is what we really need NASA to be powering their spaceships with. Nothing should be less than electrogravitics, right? I don't see any reason to use rockets right now if we can use electrogravitics, right? Unless there's a reason for that. But electrogravitics basically pumps the energy that's all around us, the cosmic energy, dark energy, dark matter, tachyon waves, gravity waves, virtual particle flux fields, Dirac sea of energy, D-I-R-A-C, the Dirac sea, the ocean of electrons everywhere. Tachyon waves, gravity waves, what else? Virtual particle flux fields. I think I'm repeating myself, but there's infinite energy in space. Why? Because there is a measurable specific amount of energy in one space that we can say, okay, this is how much energy is here, right? This many megawatts, right? Millions of watts of energy in a cubic centimeter of space. But if we use that energy, it instantly replenishes itself by the rest of the universe. The whole entire universe replenishes the energy in space at a rate, speed, frequency, cycles per second of 1 to the 120th, right? That's 1 with 120 zeros. That's how fast that number is. It's really fast. Cycles per second. It's so fast, right? It basically, essentially, instantaneously replenishes itself, and that's the whole entire universe is interconnected. It's as if there is no time and no space, right? It's like we can be everywhere, because all energy is connected everywhere throughout all space and all time, right? That's how it works. Okay, where were we? I'll start from the top. Share your positivity, creativity, and collaborative abilities to unite ideas in electrogravitics, giving more efficient flight to a pollution-free civilization. Electrogravitics, I don't know if it's mentioned in here, but we can study people like Ralph Ring, and we can study, Ralph Ring said there's already electrogravitic crafts all throughout the world. I don't know if it's the world or the country, but I think it's the world, all throughout the world, and all that's being waited for is for civilization to mature to the point where we stop fighting each other. When we stop fighting, we get to have the electrogravitic technology. And this technology is already out there. It's been out there for over 50 years. But to have it in the public, right, in the public, to have access to that, we have to stop fighting each other as a world. And we can do that, right? If the whole world votes for leaders that will not fight and they're creating education, what I mean is emphasizing education. It happens in education. That's where it begins. Because when the children are educated to value life and to value as the highest priority solution-oriented worldwide collaboration, then those children grow up to be leaders, and they'll understand how to de-escalate and how to not take what they want and how to not threaten for what they want and how to not fight for what they want, but how to give for what they want, right? That's what it's about. How can we all give more? Because then we have a world of infinite abundance. And that's what we really exist within, where there really is enough for everyone. And there really is. So it's a different kind of philosophy. It's a different way of being. And children are already being educated in that way. But talking about it continuously and improving that process, there's no limits to that. That's why we can always talk about this. Even if it's already being done, we can still talk about it all the time, right? The value of life and education is everything. Okay, so giving more efficient flight to a pollution-free civilization. And remember, electrogravitics is more than an extremely efficient form of flight and or movement through space. The forces and fields cohered in this manner forms a protective force field around each transportation system, thus acting simultaneously as a safer form of moving people and products from one place to another without end. So I'm going to hold my hand right here and say a few things to you. We can study Ralph Ring, Otis T. Carr, Thomas Townsend Brown, and John Searle. And these experimenters and masters of understanding of energy and electrogravitic flight all share their vision and understanding of how this technology works. So we can all study that. There's books written, there's lots of literature out there available. And so just talk about it. That's what it takes, talking about it. And also asking NASA, can you please start using electrogravitic propulsion, right? So instead of, I think right now it's, let's see, JPL is Jet Propulsion Laboratory. It can be electrogravitic propulsion laboratory, right? Electrogravitic, we're ready for it. It's way past due. The time is now. We're ready for this because this technology will let us visit other solar systems and travel throughout our galaxy and beyond, right? Because we live in a very big universe. So electrogravitics can get us there because it can allow us to travel at 27 to 100 times the speed of light, if I understand correctly. So this is the warp drive technology, and it creates a protective force field around it that can protect us, which is what's necessary, right? At 1/2 gravity inside the craft. So the craft doesn't have to be made of any special materials. It can be made of wood, just regular wood, or any material, I think, if I understand correctly, because that force field protects the craft. And John Searle used to make these of like the weakest material he could find to prove a point, which was that these things, the protective force field, I'm calling it a force field, the field that was generated around the craft protected it. And you couldn't crash. If you crashed, it just bounced off things. That's all it did. It would just bounce off. That's my understanding. See the better energy movement? I think it's called Better Energy Movement video titled Limitless Energy from the Vacuum with I'm trying to remember the gentleman's name that was speaking in that. But look for the video Limitless Energy from the Vacuum, and if I recall the name, I'll say it. When I stop trying to think of it, it'll come to me. But a gentleman that worked closely with John Searle, if I understood correctly, he actually ran the program there. And Russell Anderson ran the program for John Searle. He was asked and invited to come there, and because he was working in that field already on his own with small models, and was invited to lead the program. So look into that, study the research, and build your own if you want to, right? Because if NASA, I think if we start building them, NASA might start building them, right? But hopefully NASA will just start using this technology. We're ready for it. You can still have JPL if you want, but at least there can be a new lab, jet propulsion laboratory as well, right? Simultaneously. And that way there can be at least the new technology that can get us where we need to go much faster, right? Without carrying all that fuel around. And without using dangerous fuels, right? It's a clean fuel. It's the energy of space. It's cosmic energy. Electrogravitics lets us use the energy in space to move. That's what it does. And there's plenty of it. There's actually unlimited energy, limitless energy in space. And I'm talking about in every cubic centimeter of space. That's a sugar cube area. Okay, electrogravitics is about rotating magnetic fields in a circular direction and cohering the space we think of as air to transform, translate, and cohere the infinite energy potential Richard Feynman and John Wheeler wrote and spoke of so often. Very little energy input to move the magnetic fields, magnets, and allowing the natural magnetic fields of the magnets to cohere space as needed. Study John Searle, Ralph Ring, Otis T. Carr, Thomas Townsend Brown. So it is in there, and there's the names that we can study, right? And these gentlemen speak all about these technologies and how it works, and there's lots of information on it. And anyone should be able to build their own electrogravitic craft, even though it's made to sound very difficult and there's rare and difficult materials. Remember, never forget this. John Searle's first machine that he made, that went right through his roof, it was made of crude materials that he just picked up around the house, things he had already. So the fancy machines you see now that look really expensive, that's not what he started with. He built something out of stuff he had at home or things he can get from the local hardware stores, right? And that are still available now. And remember, even if something's not available, there's always another way to do it. That's important to remember that. We specialize in impossibility. We can do anything, okay? That's what we specialize in. That's what humanity specializes in. So let's do this. We can do it individually together as a world community, right? We can all do our own projects and we can share our progress with one another. And you know what? I do recommend turning comments off because there's no distraction. To me, one of the worst things that happens is to start going down rabbit holes that are completely unrelated, as far as I feel, to what I'm doing. You know, I wouldn't mind going down rabbit holes in the research I'm already doing, and that's exactly what I do. That's why the research is never ending, because it's just, there's no end to how deep we can go on any particular point, anything that we're interested in, right? Okay, so where were we here? We were talking about study John Searle, Ralph Ring, Otis T. Carr, Thomas Townsend Brown. Share your visions of Don Smith's rotating separator coil to help charge batteries in a more efficient manner. Now remember, rotating separator coil is all about extracting energy from magnets. And Don Smith said that his diagrams, when you go on the internet and look at what he's done, He's trying to give us ideas about what to do. He's trying to inspire us to make up our own way to extract energy directly from magnets. The important thing to realize is that we can extract electricity directly from a magnet. It could be a neodymium magnet or any magnet. We can extract electricity directly from it. Now, I don't know how to do that exactly. I have some ideas, right? This is one idea here. I made a few videos about this earlier. It was just taking a magnet, like a bar magnet, right, with a north and a south, and then putting a strong magnetic field, pulsing a strong magnetic field, and it could be like 2 pulses a second, right? Like pulse, 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 pulse. And as this magnet's being pulsed with a very strong magnetic field on one side, I'm thinking that possibly as a thought experiment, it could be moving the blotch wall. If that blotch wall moves, if it shifts it, right, if it shifts here or here, if it's moving, I wonder if this coil that is a separate coil here, this is our coil that's going to pick up the energy, the flux fields, right? If there is any, if there's flux field, this is this experiment, it's purely experimental. But this flux field, what could happen is, if this is working correctly, then we'll get more energy out than we're putting in. Why? Because we're allowing cosmic energy to help us power our circuit. Now remember, megawatts of cosmic energy. Now, on the internet, everyone's going to say, you can't do that. They're going to call us names and say we're stupid, we didn't go to school. Well, guess what? School doesn't know everything about the future, okay? School 100 years ago didn't know everything we know today. And school is always catching up to the future, if I say it that way. That's always going to happen, at least as far as I can understand, right? Maybe that'll change one day. Maybe one day school really will teach the future. But how do you teach the future, right? We can only teach what we know, right? We can prepare the minds to be receptive to new ideas, and that would be very good, because then we wouldn't have so much bullying going on the internet. I call it bullying because it's when people say, you're stupid, you didn't go to school, you're not learning, you're dumb, this and that, because we're trying new things. And that makes no sense at all. The best thing we can do is try new things. That's the best thing we can do. In medicine, in science, in electrical and mechanical engineering, and keep moving forward, right? Keep moving forward. So how do we tap into cosmic energy, right? How do we do that? Even the Iargans came here and shared with us, right? The Iargans, right? UFO contact from Iarga, from planet Iarga. They share with us a perpetual motion machine, right? And I'll show it to you real quick. I made videos of it, but I'll show you. They even shared a perpetual motion machine. You think it only works on their planet? No, it works everywhere. It works everywhere. Everyone keeps saying this, that there's energy everywhere. It's not just here, right? So this is kind of some of the working principles of the perpetual motion machine. It's showing some of the information about it, some of the theory, I think, right? And there it is. Look at that. So these are electric motors. If I understand correctly, it's electric motors inside a pyramid, and they are gyros on the outside. And the electric motors, think John Bedini, right? Electric motors are also generators. So it's a motor generator, right? So some of the coils are motor, and some of the coils are generator, which charge a battery, right? Now, I don't know how theirs works exactly, but just think that way, right? We're there. We can do this. But they shared with us their tech, and they call it powered by cosmic energy. I think they called it perpetual cosmic energy, I think is the words that were used. But double check for yourself. This is available on audiobook. I don't know if the book is available, if many copies of the book. And sometimes these books sell for hundreds of dollars, which is very sad, because these need to be available to everyone, right? All schools need to have access to this, all grade levels, all levels of education, the most beginning levels and the highest levels, right? Postgraduate and beyond, right? And look, this is out in public. This is out in the open, right, on a mountain. They keep this out there. Wouldn't it be nice to go to a museum and you got a perpetual motion machine working? Now, when I say perpetual motion, I'm not talking about the bully's definition of perpetual motion, and I'm calling it the perverse bully perversion definition, which is, oh, you don't ever get to maintain it, and no, the universe doesn't power your machine, right? No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the perpetual motion machine that's not plugged into the wall, and yes, it's powered by cosmic energy. It's powered by energy from the environment, like Tesla said, the perpetual wheelworks of nature. And it does need bearings once in a while. It does need maintenance, okay? That's what we're saying, but we're saying we're not plugging it in. It's not running on fossil fuels, and it's not running on power that the power plant makes, right? You know how we pay the power plant to send us that free energy signal, and then we're paying for that energy, right? Because people have to maintain the power lines and everything. So that was their way of putting a meter on it, was they took a free energy signal and sent it through the wires. So instead of sending wireless free energy, we're paying for wired free energy, right? A good business plan, but bad for people that can't afford energy, right? Terrible for them, because then you got people that can't afford to heat their houses and can't afford to stay warm, and then people die of freezing to death or getting a cold and pneumonia, and that happens all the time, right? It happens every single day. So we all need to be able to afford energy. There's no reason to not be able to afford it when there's abundant energy in every cubic centimeter of space, right? Megawatts and infinity, actually, right? Because the whole universe is there for support. Okay, let's see. Where were we here? Okay, so I'll start from the top here at this paragraph. Share your visions of Don Smith's rotating separator coil. Again, that's about extracting energy from magnets. And I was saying, don't forget that Don Smith said we can extract electricity directly from magnets. How would you do it? So earlier tonight I was talking to Robert, and he called this a permanent magnet transformer. So instead of a transformer that has like I think transformers have a primary coil and a secondary coil, right? Well, on this one, it's a magnet. Instead of just a ferrous iron metal, it's a magnet there. Now, I don't know if this is going to work or do anything. I don't even know if it would act as a transformer. But I also don't know if it would get more output than input. And I also don't know if it would allow us to do something similar to Donald Lee Smith, right? That shared so much with us in his book, the Don Smith Magnetic Resonance Energy Crafting Systematic Index book by Richard Friedrich. And that's the life's work of Don Smith. Now remember, the most important thing is education. Education's everything. We have to educate ourselves, collect the books, study, share your journey of learning what's in your books. Share your viewpoint, your specific personal viewpoint of what you see, how you interpret that information. It's the best thing we can do is share with each other what we see, right? Because we need each other. Okay, so what do we have here? Now remember, electricity can be extracted directly from magnets. This is my thought experiment about what could be done, and it's a variation of some things I've seen, like a little bit of John Bedini in there. We have the blotch wall there. I'm trying to move that blotch wall, that place where the energy is supposed to just flow in, right? Now, I also don't know if it'd be more efficient to have a coil here on this side and on this side, pulsing at the same time, pulsing at opposite times. There's many different experiments that could be done. And then in the middle, where the blotch wall is, there could be a real big coil that just collects that energy, because if that's where all the energy's flowing in, right? John Bedini said that, the energy's flowing in right there, that we could have a real big coil there that's capturing that energy as we're fluxing that magnet, right? In different ways. But as a beginner experiment, I just want to pulse it manually. And Robert was saying I could use a 555 timer, which will let me control how many pulses it'll do, right? So I'm looking for a circuit that already exists. I know I talked about this a few months ago, but I'm still thinking about this, that I can just connect to this and pulse, right? And pulse. Robert said he can make me one, but he said he's been real busy lately. So he understands a lot about electronics, but he's just busy maintaining the world as it is right now instead of making new stuff. So he's not doing much experimentation. He's just maintaining the existing world. And that's how Robert, that's what keeps him busy. So if I can move, if I can strengthen the magnetic field on this side of this magnet, or whether it's pulsing a strong north or a strong south, I could try both of those. And I can also try alternating between north-south, north-south. Now I'm guessing if this pulsed north-south, north-south, if this is pulsing there, that coil, I'm guessing that would push the blotch wall this way, this way, this way, this way, depending on if this was north or south at the given moment. And I think that would be more efficient than just pulsing it north, 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 right? So, because I think north, 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 north would either push this away every pulse or pull it toward it every pulse. I don't know which one, but I'm thinking probably push it away, right? Because likes repel each other. So if this is already north and I pulse it with the north, that might push this over here. But then if I pulse it with the north and this goes over here, and then I pulse it with the south, then it goes over here, and then I pulse it with the north and it goes over here. So just keep boom, 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 right? And then what happens here? Is there energy flowing in, cosmic energy flowing into that separate center coil that's right here, right? But in this example right here, The question is, if I just pulse this with a pulse, whether it be north or south, I can try it both ways, right? Both polarities. I think that's how we change the polarity. I'm not sure, though. Is just changing these two wires, right? Which way I connect this to the battery. And then this coil, which is collecting the flux fields, if there's any activity happening, goes into a full wave bridge rectifier to make sure we're getting a DC, right? DC going into a battery and then charge that battery. And the question would be, if this battery was depleted and this battery was full, here's the question. Can this one fill up before this one becomes depleted? And then can I switch them and do it again? And do I end up with two batteries that have more energy, right, than when they started? Because when I started, if this one's empty and this one's full and I end up with two full batteries, then we know it's working. And that's the way, I think, one way to test these circuits, because all the people that say that free energy doesn't work, it seems like 99.99% of them are saying, well, I want to measure those pulses. I want to measure the current. But when we're dealing with pulses, an amp meter is I don't think it's set up to read a pulse that just pulses real quick. And a pulse, because the universe and cosmic energy and flux fields are always pulsing at extremely high rates, I think the faster that we pulse things, possibly, right, the closer we get to the 10 to the 120th cycles per second, the closer we get to that, is the more efficient I think our circuits may be. But I also don't think that's necessary, right? I also don't think that's totally necessary. And I'm going to begin with like 1 or 2 pulses a second here and just see what this does. That's what I'm very curious about. What does this do? Does it do anything? And then if this doesn't work, how else can I access the energy in a magnet without movement, right? Like Tom Bearden, motionless energy generator, MEG. Tom Bearden made the MEG. Now his was very complicated. If you read about it, it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know what he's talking about, special materials and getting the frequencies just right, and it's not easy to do. But here's the thing to remember, and I remind myself of this, is there's always another way to do something, and everyone tells me there's always a simpler way to do something. And we don't have to use expensive materials. Don Smith even told us that. Don Smith, the gentleman who that book underneath here is all about, right? This book underneath here, the Don Smith Magnetic Resonance Energy Crafting Systematic Index book, Don Smith told us that, he would often tell us, you can do things this way, but you can also use materials from the hardware store, and it would work really well still. So he was telling us you can use these very rare metals and materials that are very expensive, thousands of dollars, or you could spend a couple dollars at the most and use just like a magnetic powder, like a ground up neodymium powder or magnet powder, right? And I'm thinking of that interrupter field for the rotating separator coil, right? He didn't say we had to use the real expensive materials. He said, no, you can use just regular neodymium magnet dust as well. And he said that for many of his different experiments, that it doesn't have to be the real special materials, right? He did say, Don Smith did say that the stainless steel had an immense effect on efficiency and range on some of the experiments using stainless steel with the coils. If you study his book and study everything you can find on Don Smith, you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, let's go back to this. So let's see where I was. I lost my spot again, so I'll start at the top. Share your visions of Don Smith rotating separator coil to help charge batteries in a more efficient manner by placing 2 sets of attracting magnets close enough to one another that a polarity meter reads the fields and forces as one continuous magnet. Required is a material which interrupts the fields and forces between the 2 sets of attracting magnets, and then the polarity of the 2 sets of magnets switches enough to cause a pulse in the magnets, which shall energize the 2 coils. Coils are wrapped around the magnets, connected, same single wire, to one another, wound in opposite directions, one direction providing amps while the opposite direction provides voltage. This wire, which is wrapped around all magnets, may connect to a full wave bridge rectifier and then connected to a small battery, such as any chemistry battery, so long as the battery voltage parameters limitations are not exceeded. That's very important. Unless it's lead acid batteries, those can go a little higher. I've had lead acid up to 16 volts just with other experiments, and that seemed to be okay. Some people say they had them up to 40 volts, but you don't want to boil those batteries and you don't want to overheat them. You don't want to overheat those either. And with lithium, we never want to go over the voltage, right? That's my understanding with lithium. So we have to be very careful with that. Okay, if the battery becomes warm, and this may be too much power for a given battery, and a larger battery or smaller magnets and smaller coils may be required in place of first experimental test. Now, I'm just going to say right now that for that system, rather than having two magnets separated by a coil that interrupts that flux field, there's also a way of taking, let me think. So I've drawn it out before, I just don't know where the drawings are at the moment. So let's say on this magnet here inside there, right, that magnet, well, actually it makes me think of this. This is another way of the Don Smith rotating separator coil. This is kind of like a variation of that as well, to me, right? Another way of doing it is just having magnets pass by this magnet. See this magnet right here? And there's a north right there. I could have another magnet pass by this field right here really fast, right? And that could be a north passing there, or north-south, 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 north-south passing by there. Magnets can pass by this and interact with this magnet, and I think causing this blotch wall to move, right? Especially if it's a north-south, north-south passing this, right? So if this magnet's mounted to something in place so it can't move, and there's another magnet on wheels passing by this, right? Passing this, and it's passing by this north-south, 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 passing this, I think it would cause this blotch wall to move back and forth, and I think it would allow us to extract energy from this with a coil wrapped around it. So in that case, we wouldn't have this electromagnet coil there. That's gone, right? And all we have is lots of coil wrapped around this whole entire magnet, and then spinning past that magnet, that bar magnet, a north-south, north-south, north-south magnets, right? It could be a big wheel with lots of north-souths and spinning very fast. And whatever this magnet does, we want to see what comes out of it. So have the wires that come out, which can be like, I would say between maybe an 18 gauge and 26 gauge possibly. Experiment in that range. That's what I'm going to do, experiment with that range. And then have that go into a full wave bridge rectifier of proper amps and volts rating area, right? Not too rated too high, not rated too low. And then go, and also fast recovery, right? I think that could be useful, possibly. I don't know if that's needed or not, if we're not dealing with really high frequency, right? Frequency is how fast we're spinning these magnets past this. But experiment with different full wave bridge rectifiers, and then have that go into a battery. And then, what are we measuring then? We're going to measure how much energy it takes to spin these magnets here, right, that are passing by this. That motor that spins those magnets, how much energy does that take from the battery that powers that? And then how much energy is going into this battery? And again, it may not be something we can measure right with an amp meter right there. It may not show up because we're getting these pulses, right? And I think the pulses are significant. I don't know if we necessarily want to go into a capacitor or not. I don't know. Well, we could. There could be a capacitor in here to smooth that out, right? Yeah, so that's experimental as well, okay? So this is just a thought experiment, and it's I absolutely love thinking of new ideas, and this is what I thought of. This is what I'm thinking of as inspired by everything I'm studying, thinking about, and writing about. Okay, where were we? I think I may have finished this part where it says, right here, where it says, if the battery becomes warm, then this may be too much power for a given battery, and a larger battery, or a larger battery, or it could be batteries in parallel, right? Parallel is just where it becomes one bigger battery, right? You have 4 batteries in parallel, then it becomes like batteries with 4 times the capacity if they're all the same battery, right? If they're all the same capacity battery, you'll have 4 times the capacity. In parallel just means all the negatives of the batteries are connected to one another, and then all the positives are connected with one another, and the positive and negatives are still left separate, not touching each other, to do whatever you need to do with those. Okay, and in this case, we're just charging those, right? So, let's see. If the battery becomes warm, then this may be too much power for a given battery, and a larger battery or smaller magnets and smaller coils may be required in place of first experimental test. There shall be a conductive, thin ferrous iron, metal, or copper, or I shall test different materials, separator, which moves between the 2 groups or sets of magnets. Okay, so now we're talking about Don Smith's rotating separator coil, where he had equivalent of 2 of these bar magnets next to each other, right? And then he was interrupting the field between them. And I think what was happening was the magnets were close enough together And there was long enough magnet. I think he had many inches of magnet. I don't know if it was like 6 inches of magnets out here. Really strong neodymium magnets. And there were the two sets of magnets were close enough together, attracting, right, north and south, attracting, but not letting touch, and then interrupting that field between them, right? So that when you interrupt the field, the blotch wall, this is just my thoughts, the blotch wall here and the one in this one in the middle will both move. So when these become one, when the two magnets, if there's a magnet over here, when the field is not being interrupted, the two magnets are going to read as one magnet, and that means that this center area here will now be the blotch wall right here. So the two blotch walls that were here move to the center. They go like this, boom, center. And then when you interrupt that field, these become two separate magnets, and the blotch wall goes boom, and that fluxing of the fields is what pulses like an impulse to these coils and lets us charge a battery or do whatever we want with that. But I think charging a battery, it has to be stored. We want to store that. So it could be stored in capacitors and then into a battery. That might be a good way to do it, right? Because capacitors are really good at storing a lot of instant power, right? A battery may not pick up all that power. It may not grab it quick enough, and it could just turn into heat. It might just turn into heat on the way there. The wires might just get warm. But if we can save that energy, save those flux fields, as many as we can, so have lots of capacitors here, and then those capacitors will discharge slowly into the battery as fast as the battery can accept it. That might be one way of doing it. Another way to do it is just not use any capacitors and see how it does, see how the battery does. Because John Bedini also did talk about different system, but talked about how we can wing that battery like a bell, right? We're the impulse hitting that battery really hard, and it's shaking. I'm using my own words, but this is a thought experiment. Shaking the infinite electron sea, Dirac sea of energy, right? The Dirac sea of electrons, D-I-R-A-C, S-E-A, the sea, the ocean of electrons everywhere, shaking them loose, right into the ions of the battery, right? And I don't know if that could happen on this kind of system as well, because John Bedini was talking about that in reference to his like the wheel that was turning with all the north poles facing the coil, and having 5 or so inches between each magnet, and then the coil would be a ferrous iron material in the middle, or it could be welding rods of a specific type and kind that are a ferrous metal, if I understood correctly. And then as those magnets pass by, so then his coils and John Bedini's coils, he had many different wires in one coil, right? So some of they were separated from each other, and one of those wires might be the motoring one, the one that keeps that wheel spinning. And all the other wires, which can be like 4 or more wires, right? You know, this is a thought experiment. I don't know the exact number, but those other wires can go to charging batteries. Each one of those can go to charging batteries, and those pulses, John Bedini, if I understood correctly, and please confirm with Rick Friedrich. I know Rick Friedrich doesn't do any coaching, and he won't answer technical questions as far as I know. He made it very clear he doesn't coach people, and he doesn't answer questions, and I don't even think he wants to do this work anymore. I think he's getting out of it. You know, he only made the systems he did make because so many of the public were demanding it, and so he did make a few systems, but I don't know how long he's going to be in this for, or if he's even going to be in it much longer at all. And so we are left to figure this out on our own. Okay, so we really have to help one another. And when I say that, I just mean making videos, sharing what you're learning like I'm doing. And I want to thank all of you for already doing that, because this whole channel is what it is because of the videos you made. So I want to thank each and every single one of you, including the bullies out there. I'm not inspired by the bullies, but when I look at the bullies and I go, you know, they're telling us we're stupid because we're not learning, but they don't realize that all we do is study. And we don't just study one book. Now, I'm not joking when I say that, but what I mean is I look at things from every perspective I can see something. And to me, each perspective is equally important. But a bully, it seems like an intelligence bully, which I'm saying intelligence bully because it's like, people will get up there and say, you're stupid, you're not educated, you didn't go to school. First of all, school doesn't know everything. And some of the wealthiest and most successful people on the planet never went to school. So someone saying you're stupid, you didn't go to school, I can tell by the things you're talking about. I'm just thinking, you know, all I can do is have compassion for that person. And a lot of people tell me, don't give up on the bullies. They don't call them bullies. They call them people that just don't know yet. They just don't know. And what I want to say is to stop bullying people and just start learning more. If you want to call it doing your homework or whatever you want to call it, because there's plenty of books out there. We're going to be going over them, okay? The Field is a really good one. That's an audio book because I prefer to listen. That's going to get you caught up to speed right there. That one book will catch anyone up to speed. I think any bully, if they listen to that book, you'll stop bullying people and stop calling them stupid. That book has enough information in it right there. And if you don't want to read, listen. Listen to the audiobook. The main thing is we got to get Google. Google has to get up to speed. Wikipedia has to get up to speed. A lot of people say Wikipedia is hopeless. I don't think it is. I don't think anything's hopeless. I don't give up on things. It's Wikipedia's job in the community to bring it up to speed, though. And I'm not going to debate. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to do that. I'm too busy. Okay? I'm too busy. Just as all of you are busy studying. So let's not give up on ourselves, and let's keep going. Let's keep moving forward. Okay, so where are we here? Okay, so there shall be a conductive thin ferrous iron, metal, or copper, or I shall test different materials, separator, which moves between the two groups or sets of magnets. Only testing, experimenting, and collaborating shall free civilizations to improve efficiency to the unlimited nature of existence. That is just so beautiful. Oh my goodness. I don't know how to tell you how good it feels to... I don't know where that came from. I wrote that, and I didn't know I was writing that when I wrote it. I just wrote it because I never stopped studying. I go to sleep, as all the great inventors have said, go to sleep with a question on your mind that you want to solve. So if I'm facing a challenge, I'll go to sleep thinking about that. And you'll wake up with the answer or something moving you toward that answer, right? And there's going to be things happening in your day, in your life, that you did not expect. It's constantly happening to me. And it's moving me forward, right? Moving me forward. And it's advancing us forward, right? Okay, so we're moving forward. We're building relationships. We're building a world community of solution-oriented worldwide collaboration. Each and every one of us contribute to that. Only testing, experimenting, and collaborating shall free civilizations to improve efficiency to the unlimited nature of existence. The unlimited nature of existence. Now, someone could say, oh, there's no unlimited nature. That's dumb. There's no unlimited nature of existence. Okay, that's your opinion. I would say read the book. Read the book. You like reading? Get the book version of that. You like listening? Listen to the audiobook, The Field. Okay? And that's just the beginning. That's just the beginning. Okay, you see these books sitting around here? That's all just the beginning. That's the beginning right there. Okay. Fear of success, fear of failure, and other irrelevancies only delay the inevitability of living in and traveling throughout a pollution-free world. We're talking about air pollution, water pollution, the land being polluted, right? This whole thing about nuclear waste in the ground being buried, being dumped in the oceans. Do you know about that? I've read about it. I wasn't even looking for it. I was reading books on energy, and they're talking about hundreds of thousands of barrels of nuclear waste being dumped in the ocean all over the place. This is not in the news. And no, it hasn't been cleaned up. That's what I'm being told. It's not been cleaned up. Okay, and you want to keep using nuclear and say, oh, well, we have nuclear reactors that won't melt down now. Well, all those hundreds of thousands of barrels of nuclear waste that were dumped in the ocean, those came from nuclear reactors that were working just fine. It was the waste that had nothing to do with it. Like, what do they do with the waste? They dumped it in the water. They bury it in the ground. It gets in our water, right? It gets in the ocean. It affects us. It goes right back into our bodies. We're destroying the planet. Why do that? Why destroy the planet? There's megawatts of energy in every cubic centimeter of space. It's right there. Okay? And it's every single individual's job, including people that work at the nuclear power plants, including all human beings. It's everyone's job. That's why I always say the bullies too. It's your job too. It's everyone's job to learn and to embrace the solutions. Embrace them. Okay, and the creative way might be, okay, how can you make money at that, if that's what you want, right? If that's what you want to do, you can think about that. But first, let's think about how to get energy into the hands of everyone in need of it, so everyone can keep their home warm, so everybody can have lights on, right? Or keep their home cool when it's hot. Okay, people do not deserve to suffer. No one deserves to suffer because there's enough for everyone. It's the air we breathe. Right? Megawatts in every breath of air. millions of watts, and actually infinite energy in actuality, right? Why? Because every cubic centimeter of space is powered by the entire universe. That's how energy works. Okay, study and you'll find that out. Not by reading just one viewpoint, because you can read hundreds of books on one specific viewpoint. You have to read the other viewpoints as well. Okay, because that's what's causing, I think, a lot of the problem is that people are going, oh, no, my particular viewpoint, my point of view is right, and nothing else is right. There's no energy in space. I don't know what you're talking about. But you have to work hard for that education. And if it's not in school, people say it is in higher education, right? In higher education, you will learn about it. But not everyone has access to that. Not everyone's going to get there. I mean, everyone may have access to it, but not everyone's going to go through graduate school, right? Not everyone's going to do that. So then it's also the job of the people that have that level of education to share it. And I think they do. A lot of people go on the internet, highly educated people, and share information. But remember, that's only part of it. The other part comes from the rest of the people. We need to know what everyone sees. Everyone studies all the material, and then everyone shares what they see, right? And then working together to build things, right? That's what we do. Fear of success, fear of failure, and other irrelevancies. What does that mean? Other irrelevancies. Fear is irrelevant. Fear of success, fear of failure, and other irrelevancies only delay the inevitability of living in and traveling throughout a pollution-free world. Next stop, every galaxy in the known and unknown universes and beyond. What shall we create today? I hope you have a wonderful day. 13 likes. Now, it's okay if no one likes it. I'm just saying 13 people liked it. That's a big number for this channel. That's a very big number for writing. You know, when I show a picture, that'll get a lot of likes, you know, right? So the most recent the picture that people liked a lot was the Roadrunner Pro. We got 5 likes on the Mark at Winky's workshop made this Wimshurst machine. And that has, what happened? Oh, I think okay, let me go back. I think it opened the photo because I touched it. I pressed it in one spot too long. So that got 5 likes each, as you can see right there, the Wimshurst machine. And if you like the Wimshurst machine, look at the Methernitha testodica, right? And I think that machine, again, it goes right back to magnets. I think the Methernitha testodica is actually using a Wimshurst machine that's different than a Wimshurst machine. It has bigger capacitors, a lot of different things on it. But I think it's using that frequency to excite, if I say it that way, the flux fields of a magnet. And the flux field of the magnet, it's the way the flux fields of the magnet interact with the flux fields of space. And I think we're exciting or tickling those, I don't know if you want to say tickling, but like exciting that area of space, the cosmic energy around the magnet, and then capturing that with coils. And I think that's how, that's just my perception, my early perception of how the Methernitha testodica machine works. And that's a machine that's powering a community in Switzerland. Okay, so a whole city is powered by that. And that Methernitha testodica machine has 2 magnets, right? And the magnets look like this, if I recall correctly. They go like this, right? Like that. There's one there and one here. And then they have coils around them, right? So they have coils of wire around them like that. And I don't know if one is the coil that excites the field, and the other is the output. And then one excites the field and one is the output, right? And I don't know if these are wired in series to amplify that effect. I don't know. But it looked like, you know, these magnets, these are permanent magnets, if I understand correctly. I think my thoughts are that they're being excited by the charge of the Wimshurst machine, right? So I'm interested in doing some tests like that too. Maybe we'll do some of that later tonight. We'll see if we can do some of that. Oh, I'm sad to look at this video right now, and I see it's 49 minutes and 15 seconds, and I'm thinking this video is going to take days to upload and maybe weeks. And that's the sad thing. Okay, so I was going to show you everyone likes a lot of people like the Roadrunner Pro. Roadrunner Pro prepared for its maiden voyage this is before it was ever ridden. Okay, so it was put together, cleaned up. There's the pump. Why? Because we always check tire pressure before riding any micromobility. Always check tire pressure, no matter what. And the way you can check it is just squeeze the tire and see if it feels like it's too low on air. And you can see here we got 16 likes on that one, on the Roadrunner Pro. Yeah, people like that one a lot. And then on the Dualtron Storm Limited, where I made a plug for it, and we talk about the battery cells. And that one has, a lot of people like that one as well. And that was 12 likes on there. That's a lot for this channel. Oh, look at those shoes. Yeah. Oh, I just pressed it. That's going to open the photo. That's going to take it to another page. Okay, but it makes the photo bigger. Yeah, there it is. See those shoes right there? That's right there. That's the shoe. I raised up I put a piece of wood underneath there to raise this side so the scooter wasn't leaning so much because everything was sliding right off of it. It is good that the scooter leans a lot though, because that way it has less of a chance of falling over on uneven ground. So it is good that the scooter leans a lot like that. I think that is a good thing. And there's the Roadrunner Pro right there. Okay, everyone, so I'm going to wrap this video up. And I just wanted to share that comment with you, which actually took me 50 minutes and 55 seconds, and share a few ideas with you. I have no idea what I'm going to call this video, but I am excited to share the journey of the process of learning with you. And let's keep building things, keep making things. And I would say the most exciting free energy circuit I think that I can think of at the moment, because it's real simple to do, is this idea of the loving giving path that Rick Friedrich talks about. And it's not his circuit. He's just collected some of the best electrical and mechanical engineers in the history of our planet. And he's collected their work and brought it together and shown kind of some of the ways that they think about things. And so, because some people would say, oh, well, how come none of the famous electrical engineers knew about free energy? And it actually turns out that they did. And that's what Rick Friedrich shares with us, is that some of these, actually the best electrical engineers in the history of our planet, some of the best of them knew very well how to make the circuits work. And this actually is one of those circuits, or it's at least a variation of one, right? And I'm just using what I have, right? Because I have two 42-volt batteries. Sometimes people are just using 12-volt lead-acid batteries. So you run this side, you can run a few batteries in series, and on this side, you always run them in parallel, right? So, and what happens is when you have higher energy on one side, higher voltage on one side, then you can, I've been going into a pulse width modulator, which is a brushed motor controller, and then positive and negative go to the positive and negative of the pulse width modulator, and then the negative coming out goes to the negative of the battery, and then the positive, I send it through something, whatever I want to do, okay? And it works really well with one thing. Now, I think there's a lot of different things we can do in here, but I've noticed putting one thing in there works really well. If I put two electric motors in there, then I don't really understand what's happening, and it might just be that this voltage has to be a much, much higher to be able to do something like that. I don't know. I have to experiment with it more. But I know if I put like an electric motor in there, I could put a really big electric motor in there, a good size one. As long as the voltage is high enough on this, higher than that, right? Much higher than that. And that allows it to work, because then when we turn this pulse width modulator up, it makes that the load, whatever the load is, whatever it takes to turn this motor. So let's say it takes like 10 amps to make that motor spin, right? 10 amps. When I turn this dial, this potentiometer on the pulse width modulator, which is a brushed motor controller, when I turn that dial, and this is being powered just by a positive wire, right? Yeah, a lot of people are like, what? How does that work? It does. I guess they call it, well, some people say it's powered by a virtual circuit or a virtual negative, right? Because the negative on this side goes over here, and the positive just goes through that. But because it's all connected overall, it works somehow, right? Because it's all connected, right? Because this is still connected to that battery, and this is going to that battery. But when you share the charge, the idea is when you share this energy with another battery, that's the reason this works, which is why it's called the loving giving path, because we're sharing it with another battery rather than just having one battery power that motor. Now, if this battery powered that motor, my understanding would be that the electrons would all be on the negative side, and you got to confirm this for yourself. I might be saying this incorrectly, but this is what I just recently read. The negative side would have all the electrons when the battery is fully charged. And then when the battery is draining itself, they move to the positive side, right? So if that's true, let's see how that looks in this big circuit. Let's see if we can guess, if we were to guess what's happening to the electrons. So if they're, now let's see. So this wire goes here, and if the electrons always go from one side of the battery to the other side, this one's getting charged. So that means on this battery, they're going from the plus to the minus, right? Does that sound right? So we're powering this. I don't know, actually. I don't know. It's a question. I don't actually know. I don't know how that works. We'll talk more about this in the future. But I do know that if on this positive wire, it also could be done with the negative wire. And I also don't know if I put the same electric motor on a negative wire, right? I don't know if I could do the exact same thing. And if this read 8 amps to make this turn, and then this, I had a motor on this side that read 8 amps, would that mean this would be charging at 16 amps? Would that be charging twice as fast? Okay, and the other question is, does that work better, having a motor on this side too? Does that work better than having 2 motors here on this side? Because I've put a couple motors on one side, and it seems like it slows everything down a lot, right? And just having one that goes really, really fast. So, but that also, again, could be because this voltage isn't high enough, and maybe it needs to be higher. Maybe it needs to be, because this, I can put many batteries in series on this side, right? I can go as high as I want. I can go hundreds of volts, but the pulse width modulator would have to be able to handle that, and I still can't overcharge this battery. Now on this side, this could be lead acid batteries. In this case, I have a lithium battery on this side, and I have to make sure this battery's not going over to 66 volts fully charged, right? 60 volts nominal, but the charger reads 67.4 volts, I think. But I wouldn't want to go over 66 volts in this kind of experiment. I know the voltage will drop when I turn this off. It'll drop a little bit. I wouldn't want to try to top the battery off with this kind of circuit with lithium, because I'm not going to risk damaging the battery or causing it to overheat or some kind of problem, right? But this side can be wired in parallel. I could have a lot of batteries, and I think they need to be, let me think, if they're parallel, yeah, they have to be the same voltage. They would have to be the same voltage, but I could run a lot of batteries in parallel on this side, right? So this side I could have lots of batteries in series to get lots of voltage, and this side could be lots of batteries in parallel. Now, when using a pulse motor, if I understand correctly, and I'm still learning what that is and like how that works and how to modify that motor, how to modify a pulse motor so that it sends the pulse both ways, right? Because sometimes it can send a pulse into these batteries, but also back, some of that can go back here too, if I understood correctly when I read about this. But in this kind of circuit, I don't think it would do that, because I think if I'm in a pulse width modulator, I think that pulse coming back here could probably maybe just cause harm to that. I don't know. But if using the proper pulse motor, I think what can happen is on this side, the high voltage side, we can have these 2 batteries, right? The 42 volt batteries. And on this side, let's say I have more 42 volt batteries, like 10 of them, right? I think I could have up to 300 volts, and that's an exact number that was given when using 12 volt batteries, around 300 volts of batteries on the receiving side. And if I understood correctly, those all can charge up. So as this side is like, let's say this side has 2 batteries at 24 volts, right? If this was 2 12 volt batteries, if that was 2 12 volt batteries, and I don't know if we can go a lot higher on the voltage with 12 volt batteries for this particular example. I'm guessing you probably could. So let's say, just as a thought experiment, let's say we were at like 48 volts on this side with 12 volt batteries, right? For 12 and 12 is 24, 24 and 24 is 48. So having those in, would that be series? Let's see, 12 and 12. Yeah, that would be, I think that'd be 4 batteries in series. 4 12 volt batteries in series would make 48 volts, if I understand correctly. And then, yeah, that's correct. So we'd have about just over 50 volts with those, right? Because 12 volt batteries are just over 13 volts each, right? So that like 52 volts if they were 13 volts each. And so then going through the pulse motor, if this was a pulse motor, right? And I still have to figure out like what is the pulse motor and what needs to be done to it so that it can do what I'm saying right now, which is this side can be up to 300 volts worth. Now, I don't know if that means 300 volts worth in parallel, 300 volts with, well, it couldn't be in series because the energy wouldn't flow from this would be lower voltage then. So it has to be, I guess it would have to be, I guess when that was stated, because I read this, it was 300 volts in parallel, but they add up to 300 volts if you add the voltage, right? So I don't know how many 12-volt batteries that would be. That wouldn't be hard to figure out. Just say 300 divided by 13, I guess, or divided by 12. And that would give us how many batteries we can charge on this side. Now, I was doing that here before when you saw the whole floor covered with batteries. I was doing that. I was having like, 24 volts over here, and then running through a motor, splitting the positive, and then charging up like is all the batteries I had. I don't know if I had like 30 or 40 batteries, and it was charging them, and it was working. But I think it's more efficient when this is a pulse motor. So this is a simple, this is a simple free energy circuit. The idea is any load you run through here is free, which means what? That's a motor. I put these as generators, or they could be motors that, right, when you turn a motor, it makes power, so that's the generator. Or they can be permanent magnet alternators. But when this motor turns these, what do we do with that electricity? We can send it back over here. We can even step the voltage up if we want to, send it back over here and help keep this battery charged. And then on this side, we could just have lots of batteries in parallel, so we're charging lots of batteries, right? So these batteries are charging this battery while we power this for free, right? No energy is lost here. That's a free energy circuit, okay? And that'll work for bullies too. The bullies that say there's no such thing as free energy, a bully can do this and it'll work for them. But they won't. They may not admit it though, because I've seen bullies that bully people have a circuit right in front of them. I've watched it work in front of them, and they're saying it's not working. That's not someone that's open to anything. They're not going to see anything that isn't what they know. It could be right in front of them, and they say, nope. So that's why I think Rick and many inventors say, don't ever try to prove something to someone. Never do that. Just do your own thing. Do your own experiments, right? If this circuit works for you, it works for you. It's as simple as that. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. You can make videos sharing your experience, but I would turn the comments off because you're going to have people getting mad at you. Calling you names, saying you're uneducated. Now, if you don't care, people say they don't care. I've watched people say that they don't care, and I've watched them eventually get upset because a bully will keep picking and find ways to upset you, right? Bullies can do that. There's a lot of bullies on the internet, and I know YouTube has a zero tolerance for it, but, YouTube can't catch them all right away. But I do think YouTube kicks them off YouTube because no one's allowed to be mean on YouTube. That's why there's those things when you comment, there's all those warnings like follow the community guidelines and all that. It's getting much better, but what do the bullies do? Well, the bullies can start becoming advocates of free energy, all of them. I'm inviting all the bullies out there to join the free energy movement. What does free energy mean? I'm just saying free energy means tapping into the limitless potential of cosmic energy. If you want to use different words, use whatever word you want. You can call it dark energy, dark matter, tachyon waves, gravity waves, virtual particle flux fields, the Dirac sea. You could say those are all different. You could say those are all the same. I'm not trying to agree or disagree with anyone. I'm just doing my experiments. I'm just sharing my journey of learning. I'm just sharing my creative process, and that's what inspires me. Just as I was inspired by all of your experimentation that you guys do out there. For all of you that do those experiments, thank you. And thank you for the time that you take to write those comments, those thoughtful comments, for not being manipulative, for just saying it how it is, saying the truth of your experience, of your journey of learning, right? Not to knock people down and not to put yourself down, but to build yourself up by building others up and building worldwide solution-oriented collaboration. Right now we're at an hour and 3 minutes and 33 seconds. Okay, I'm going to stop this video and make some more, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Okay, everyone, don't forget, now in this line right here, in the positive line, we can put a hydrogen cell, HHO cell, right there, water fuel cell, electrolysis cell, and one wire will power this. How do we do that? Well, coming out of the pulse width modulator, right, in this kind of circuit, right, where we're sending one energy from one set of batteries to another set of batteries. In this kind of circuit, this can be any voltage higher than that voltage, and this can be any voltage lower than that voltage. That's the idea. And you have to make sure your pulse width modulator, if that's what you're using, because you don't have to use that. You can just go straight into your, this negative can go straight to that negative, and the positive can go right into your motor, but it's going to go fast, right? And depending on how much higher that voltage is, determines how much faster that's going to spin, probably. You could probably put resistors and stuff in here if you wanted to, I guess. You can experiment with that. Some people put a heater in here and they keep their house warm, and then they put these batteries in parallel, or these batteries in series, these in parallel, and while the energy is flowing through the heater, it keeps their house warm. And then when this battery is charged at the rate of powering that heater, so no energy is lost in your heater, none is lost, right? It all goes here. And then what happens, you wire these in series and these in parallel, so this voltage is higher now, and then you connect it same way to the heater, and then as these batteries are charging these batteries, right? Why would it do that? Because the lower voltage is going to receive a charge from the higher voltage. So all we're doing is switching these from series to parallel, parallel to series, series to parallel, parallel to series, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And we're sending the energy from here to here, to here, to here, to here, to here, to here, to here. Or we can do something like this where we have electric motor big enough and powerful enough, and we have to make sure that this has enough voltage and current here, enough power to run that, right? And then this is big enough too. These can be lots of batteries in parallel here. That we want to make sure things aren't heating up, so we got to watch that. If things are heating up, you need to add more batteries in parallel, I think, right? And I'm not telling you to do this. I'm just sharing what I would do or what I do in my experiments, because I don't want anybody getting hurt. If anybody experiments with this, you're completely on your own. And I'm not saying that you should do this, but I'm sharing with you, this is a thought experiment of a free energy system, and I have experimented with circuits similar to this, and it's worked very well. Now, another way is to run this motor, and this motor be big and strong enough to spin alternators, and these alternators to be spinning fast enough, right, with pulleys, and also just spinning fast enough here, because we have enough power going to it, and it's strong enough that this can go back and charge this. However that is needed to be done, whether that you choose to wire these in parallel, parallel, or series, charge this up and keep this charge longer or permanently. Just keep it going. And then on this side, what happens? Lots of batteries being charged, and you can power loads with that. So let me think about this. Just as the thought experiment right now. Let's say this battery is getting too much charge in it, right? It's getting too full. Oh, what do I do with that power? Well, I can hook up I could probably hook up some kind of charger that could then take energy from this battery and help charge these as well. Or, right, if depending on how fast these are getting charged, I could take the power that's coming out of these batteries here that are in parallel, and I can run another motor over here to help these spin. How interesting is that? Because what happens then? Then this has less of a load on it, and then this is not forcing this to charge so fast, right? Because the more load on this is the faster this charges. So I can have another electric motor over here helping all this turn that's powered by these batteries over here. See all the different options there are? This is just absolutely beautiful. Look, I'm so frustrated with myself. I'm such a beginner in free energy. You know, Rick and all these inventors out there in the world are talking about, oh, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. I don't know what they're talking about. It's really embarrassing. I mean, I have a really hard time learning things. I really do. And any of you that have been watching the channel have seen this channel going for like 13 years now. I think this is the 13th anniversary. And, you know, I don't know how much I've really learned. I think my writing got a little bit better maybe. I've definitely read more books. I'm definitely focused a little better because I have the comments. I don't read the comments anymore on this channel. I read them on other people's videos, and people will attack me there, but it's not a problem. I'm used to it. I'm like, oh, whatever. You know, they're just frustrated for whatever reason. I'll try to be nice to them. But that, you know, it's not the same as on this channel. There's 11,000 videos, and imagine all the comments. You know, there's 11,000 videos on this channel, and the comments can be distracting sometimes when they're negative. Just to say, the positive comments are never distracting though, because comments that are positive are just saying, keep going, right? Like, yes. And that's the way I read them. You know, they may not be saying those words, but I want to thank all of you for being patient with me. And I've met people that say that, you know, that they started out, like for example, this channel was started in, I think it was like 2011, and someone may have started studying this field of extremely efficient energy and cosmic energy powered systems, maybe after that date, like, you know, 2000 and 12 or 13 or 14, right? And then they went on to become teachers, where they teach the technology around the world to communities that are in poverty, right? That don't have energy, that don't have water. And they go around the world teaching and volunteering and just different things and helping the world, right? World community support. It's just wonderful. It's so inspiring. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, they know so much more than me. You know, just talking to them, they know so much more than me. And they started, and they just got started, right? So we all learn at different rates, different speeds, but we're all into this together. Everybody makes a difference. Every person counts. And it just goes to show, like, I think I'm a good example of this. If I can do this, you can do it, because I'm like the last person in the class to ever understand anything, to ever get what's going on. And here I am. I'm not giving up. See me? Do you see me giving up? I'm not giving up. Okay? So no one needs to give up, right? No one needs to give up. Go for it. See you in the next video. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.